it's Marla. Welcome to another video teaching going along with 365 Prophecy, our Bible study, which is taking a look at the Old Testament prophecies of the Messiah, which have been fulfilled by Jesus in the New Testament. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I'm just happy to be here again today to teach through this verse that we've been working on for the last couple of times. We still have some more work to do with it. We're on 365 Prophecy number 17, and we're looking at Genesis 49:10. This verse has about, at least 5 different prophecies tucked in it. So today we're going to look at it one more time, and we're going to go in a little bit more depth about something we've already seen in these verses regarding the timeline of the Messiah. So let's read it, Genesis 49:10, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. So in context, this verse is being spoken by Jacob as he's dying, and he's prophesying, he's actually giving a prediction about what is going to happen to his sons, what kind of blessings are coming their way, and what things are going to happen to their family lines. And in this particular verse, he's talking to his son Judah about what's going to happen to him. So Genesis 49:10 says, "The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute comes to him, and to him shall be the obedience of the peoples." So in that verse, we already saw that there's going to be obviously a kingly line that's going to come out of Judah. That's the scepter language there. And we also saw that there's going to be a timeline to things. The timeline includes that the king is not going to be recognized as Messiah until tribute comes to him. And we saw that that was fulfilled when the Magi came to bring a tribute of gold and frankincense, of myrrh to the king and priest and the temple, which Jesus represents. And so this was all fulfilled. But today I want to talk a little bit more about the timeline of things, because there's more to this verse regarding a timing, and that comes in the form of the Messiah having to come from the line of Judah. Very, very important for Jewish people that this is to happen, and because it's prophesied in the Old Testament, which is their scriptures. And so to this day, the Messiah to the Jewish people, he hasn't come because they haven't recognized Jesus as that. And so they're waiting for this Messiah to come from the line of Judah through David, and that is one of the ways that they're going to know that he's the Messiah, because of this heritage. Now, the thing that I'm driving at here is, in the time when Jesus came, it would have been very, very easy to trace his heritage from the line of Judah. We see that Matthew, the writer of Matthew, he wrote his very first words in the very first book of the New Testament is a genealogy which points to the heritage of Jesus. That's how important this is to Jewish people. If anybody's going to convince anybody that Jesus is the Messiah, they've got to prove his heritage right back through David to Judah. Very important. And that was easy for Matthew to do when he wrote that, because the lineage of people in the days of Matthew, in the days of Jesus, that was all stored within the temple. The temple that I'm speaking about here, the religious house of God, obviously, was in Jerusalem. The first temple was the Temple of Solomon. That temple was destroyed by the Babylonian invasion. But this temple that was there when Matthew was alive, when Jesus was alive, was the second temple rebuilt, a former, a shadow of the former glory of the Solomon's temple. But there was a temple there, and in the temple is where all the records of the heritage of the tribes that came out of Jacob was stored. They would be very meticulous about keeping records in that day, because the land transference, the inheritance of land, was very, very important in these days. You will see this when you go into some of the books of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, when you go into the book of Joshua, even when you see the books of, well, like I said, the Pentateuch, you will see that land transference within tribes was very, very important. And so all of that record had to be kept in the temple because that was of huge importance to these people, that making sure that the land was given to the next in line within a tribe. When I'm saying tribe, I mean the 12 tribes which came out of Jacob, 12 sons. So very important, 12 different lineages. They needed to keep perfect record of this, and that was done in the temple. So when Matthew came, when Jesus was on earth, there were records of Jesus's heritage. So anybody could have said, yes, Jesus is from the tribe of Judah that he needed to be of. That's the timeline. He had to come when it was provable that he could be from the line of Judah. Now, I'm stressing this because in the day that we're in right now, it would be impossible to prove that the Messiah was from the line of Judah. And I say that because right now, there is no temple standing in Jerusalem. That temple, the second temple, was destroyed. And so with it, all the records of the tribes of Israel, the tribes of Jacob, were destroyed as well. So if the Jewish people, are waiting for their Messiah to come, and let's just say, he were to come, there would be no way anybody could say, aha, he was from Judah. Let's go to let's go check it at the temple. No temple records. And so for the Messiah to be the Messiah, he had to come at a time where it was provable that he was from the line of Judah. And that time is not now. And so the Jewish people waiting for this to happen, it's sort of a mute issue because anybody could come and say they were Messiah and from the line of Judah. And, the Jewish people would say, well, you can't prove it. You can't prove it. So, they're waiting for this thing that just can't happen. That is one of the reasons we know that Jesus is the fulfillment of this timeline. He came at a time where the temple was up and that this could be proven. Now, I just want to tell you what happened to the temple, or you might be wondering. That temple, that second temple, was destroyed by the Roman Empire. And that happened in 70 AD. In fact, Jesus predicts this was going to happen himself, and he does this in Luke 21. I'm going to read this to you so you can see the prediction of exactly what was going to happen to the temple made by Jesus. So this is Luke 21, 5 and 6. And while some were speaking of the temple, how it was adorned with noble stones and offerings, Jesus said, as for these things that you see, the days will come when there will not be here one stone left upon another that will not be thrown down. That is an absolute prediction of what hadn't happened yet, but was going to happen in 70 AD when the Roman Empire came and flattened the temple and destroyed all of Jerusalem, and the Jewish people had to be dispersed. The Jewish people had an uprising, and Rome got sick of it, and they just came and flattened the whole thing. Now, all of this, interestingly enough, like I said, happened in 70 AD after Matthew had written his gospel in 50, 60 AD, when Jesus' timeline, Jesus' heritage was provable. And all this happening was actually part of a prediction that was made in John chapter 11 by the high priest at the time. And this verse these verses I should say that I'm going to read to you are the New Testament fulfillment of Jesus coming from the line of Judah and coming at a time where this was all traceable. So let's go to John chapter 11, and I'm going to read a bunch. I'm going to read from 47 forward because I want you to get the context of this so you know what's going on. This is happening right after Jesus has raised Lazarus from the dead, all right? This discussion that's happening. So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered the council and said, "What are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation. But one of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said to them, You know nothing at all, nor do you understand that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish. He did not say this of his own accord, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation, and not for the nation only, but also to gather into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. So from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. So like I said, this has happened after Jesus has raised Lazarus from the dead, and the Pharisees and the chief priests, they're all worried now because nobody could miss this sign that Jesus had performed, that he is the Messiah. And they're discussing how they want to get rid of him. And you can see that Caiaphas makes a stunning prophecy without even knowing it. He says, it's better for us to kill this one man so that Rome continues to let us have our place, that means the temple, and our land, lets us, stay here. Because if all these people start following this one man and uprise, Rome is going to come and take away our temple and our land. Well, don't you know that they listened to Caiaphas? They killed this one man, capital M man, and it didn't stop Rome. Rome came and flattened their place, the temple, and took away their land. And with that, all of the tribes of Israel, the Jewish tribes, scattered. They had to run. They went on the run from Rome in Jerusalem. And with that, there's no more ability really to trace this line of Judah. There's no more really land that has to go from tribe to tribe to tribe because it was taken away. Rome came and took over in Jerusalem completely. And so Caiaphas made a prediction without even knowing it. He was hoping that if they killed Jesus, that the people wouldn't uprise and follow Jesus. But what happened was they killed Jesus, and then Jesus, Messiah, came to save the world. You see the prediction of that in here too, that Caiaphas says, not just for the nation is this man going to die, but for the children who are scattered abroad to be gathered into one. That is a prediction of not just the Jewish people who had to scatter, but the world who is scattered in darkness being collected together as one, as children, because of the killing of this one man. So this is a prediction by Caiaphas of the Messiah. He didn't even know he was saying it. And meanwhile, they killed Jesus, and it didn't stop Rome from flattening their land and flattening their temple and taking their land. And so this is a prophecy fulfilled here, this Old Testament prophecy that Jesus had to come from the line of Judah and had to come at a time where you can prove he was from the line of Judah. And that is exactly what Jesus did. Jesus's feet hit the earth at a time where that temple was still standing. And right now, if a Messiah came, some fake Messiah came, nobody would be able to say he's from the line of Judah, because there is no temple because of the Roman invasion of Jerusalem and the flattening of the second temple. So I hope this makes some sense to you of the timeline of Jesus coming and how this proves that he is indeed the Messiah predicted in the Old Testament, because we could prove when Jesus came that he was from the line of Judah. All right. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. It's in Jesus' name. I'm doing it all. Bye now.